Year 8 English video about Chapter 4 of the novel Once. First thing we look at, again, the chapter starts with the word once. That's titular. It means it's from the title. And it provides a summary of the chapter. So once I escaped from an orphanage in the mountains. Here we have a significant change in setting. So we've moved from the orphanage out into nature. And lots of the phrases that are used here illustrate the difference between the cloistered environment of the orphanage and the freedom that's provided out in nature. We see down here that he slithers down a mountainside. If we can underline this section here, all I can hear is birds and insects and the trickle of the stream. So there's a very different environment being evoked, a different setting. He's now leaving the orphanage and he's journeying like the hero's journey, journeying home. We have here that he drinks from a stream. He tells us that as he escapes from the orphanage and he goes down the mountainside into the forest, eventually he comes obviously to a rural area because he finds himself crouching in a pig pen with a smelly pig sticking its snout in his ear. So he's moved from the orphanage down the mountainside through the forest into a pig pen. The next important place on the journey home is he finds a house. So he moves to a house. This is an issue of setting. So you highlight that area or underline it and make sure that you're right. This is an issue of setting. Okay. He notes that it's a Jewish house because of a religious symbol that's on the door. We'll come back to that later on. The kitchen stove is still burning. The back door is wide open, but nobody's at home. So he's moved again from the orphanage down a mountainside through a forest. He's moved to a rural area where he's spent some time in a pig pen. He's found an abandoned house, a recently abandoned house. The next area of importance is that here on page 32, if you could underline, I'm doing the same standing here at the crossroads. The crossroads is an important image, and we'll discuss that when we get to literary devices. But he moves now onto some roads, and he's got a crossroad, so he's moved out of the house onto the road. And finally, the last place that he attends in chapter 4 is the river. He finds his way to the river, and that river is going to lead him home. So that is a brief overview of the settings, the various places on his journey in chapter 4, moving from the orphanage to his home. Character in chapter 4 is Felix. Felix undergoes some character development and we learn more about him. He's poor and he's quite content to be poor, but in some cases he does complain. On page 29, he complains that the shoes hurt him and he needs ones that aren't made from wood. So in Poland, like many European countries, wooden shoes, what they call in the Netherlands, clogs, were very popular, particularly amongst the working class. A wooden shoe could withstand a horse trampling on your feet in a way that a thin leather shoe couldn't. On page 32, when Felix goes into the house and finds it deserted and takes food and clothing, he leaves a little note. Dear people who live here, sorry, I know stealing is wrong, but I haven't got any money, and my mum and dad's books are in great danger. I hope you understand. Yours faithfully, Felix. This says a lot about Felix. It says that he has a strong moral compass. He knows what right and wrong is. He also knows that he's desperate, and he's hoping that the people that live there understand him. So it tells us a lot about his honesty and his strength of character. Page 32, we also find out more about his imagination. If you read this little story about how his two heroes, mum and dad, come to the lonely crossroads, and there's trolls wanting to buy a full set of encyclopedias and eating farm animals, it tells us a lot about his imagination and a little bit more about the creativity that Felix has, particularly the creativity that he has in interpreting his life situation. He interprets what's going on in the real world in an imaginary way.